The Dauntless. He puffs on his cigar as he regards the Lance 03, a small 10-man support and ferry craft. It's designed for null space use and with a rotating portion designed to simulate gravity outside the reach of Axiom, one of a total of 6 known null-capable craft, the Dauntless being first and Lance 01 to 05 being the remainder. The Lance series were all vaguely shaped like the head of a spear, albeit without much to attach it to a haft. "Admiral?" Captain Johanna Lake asks him as he approaches, and he smiles. "You didn't think I'd send you back to Earth without a proper send-off, did you?" he asks. "Sir, you don't have to. All of us are very well rated for zero gravity. Furthermore, the Lances are rated to dock with the space station easily and even shift and lock into place for atmospheric entrance without Axiom assistance. We're going to be fine. Regardless, you are member of my crew, Captain. A captain in my fleet, no less. You are my responsibility as your ship, and crew are yours. From now until you reach Earth and receive an honorable discharge, I am your superior officer," Admiral Cistern says, and she snaps a salute. "Thank you, sir. But you really don't need to worry. We know exactly what to expect, and it's just a simple jaunt home. Less dangerous than our trip out, even as there won't be an overcrowded ship going completely stir-crazy in zero gravity," Captain Lake remarks, and he nods. Still, the hard copies in English, Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, and Hindi should help. The blueprints and... "Captain, I appreciate the concern, but we've sextuple-checked everything. We're ready," she says, and he nods. Although it is rather cute that the mighty Admiral Cistern frets over his captains like a nervous father. There is never anything wrong with being concerned for one's subordinate's young lady, Philip says suddenly in the area, without a hint to his approach. Captain Lake twitches, but barely resists jumping. "I thought this would be sent off without ceremony. Get everything off and away, and by the time any potential spies learn about us sending a report back, it's already gone," Captain Lake remarks, and Sir Philip nods gently. "Dear girl, if you manage to keep a secret from me while upon the same continent, let alone the same ship, then you will have my deep admiration and respect. Alas, you must make do with more moderate levels of respect and admiration, madam," he says with a grin. "Right, well, my men and I will be locking everything into place and going through our pre-flight checklist." "Godspeed, Captain," Admiral Cistern says, snapping off a salute to the volunteer, and she returns it with a smile. She climbs up the ramp into the long and angular ship, and he paces around it. The ship is a pair of large wings with a cylinder inside it and a jutting forward helm with a large, chunky engine on the back. Here in the Axiom, and when entering an area of gravity, the ship locks in the central cylinder. Within the null and out of gravity, the cylinder rotates near endlessly, leaving only the helm and engines with a joining hallway in zero gravity. Granted, the gravity in the living quarters will not be high, but it will be high enough for considerably higher quality of life than zero gravity offers. Currently, the braces are extended from the wings to lock down the rotational cylinder. It requires little energy to get it moving, and with the central braces, little energy to stop. The remaining 4 are simply to hold everything still. The chunky engines at the back are the quad-powered beasts. One of each type is all that's needed, but they not only get a pair, but parts for repair, or even to build a spare from scratch. This small crew of 10 will go out and change the Earth almost as much as the original probe sent to them. He examines the false head of the ship, decorated to look like the helm, and if there were any boarders, they would find themselves in the trap. Right behind it and incorporated into the wings are a pair of turrets to attack into space. Its firing arcs only face forwards and backwards, but that would have to do as they could not fit more on without resorting to Axiom techniques. Ablative plating, reflective panels, solar panels, at minimum a trinity of backups for each system, and should worse come to worse, the wings could be broken away from and the central cylinder could reveal hidden backup engines for emergency escape. Redundancies. That is the human design method. Each of our ships is designed to last longer than any other, he says to himself, then nods. A fair thing to be known for, sir. Everyone likes a showpiece, but the foundations of all civilizations are built upon the reliable and steady, Sir Philip remarks, and he nods. They finish the little walk around of what is ostensibly the third of only 5 null-resistant galactic-rated shuttles. Although being resistant to null, which is regarded with near mythic fear, the galaxy over is certainly an advantage on the marketplace. Be honest with me, Philip. The galaxy is considered to be at a golden age. Are we doing the right thing bringing our chaos into it? Only here in Centris and along the major galactic laneways is this an age of plenty and prosperity. It's included in the political summary and details I have added into the data, sir. Sir Philip says, as Lance 03 slowly pulls off the ground with the Axiom anti-gravity drives and rises up like a phantom. Then it's gone in a moment. Blasting into the distance like a bird of chrome and solar panels, they would ride the largest galactic lanes and shut everything that uses Axiom down a full day before hitting the edge of cruel space and use the dismantling systems to pull them apart and bleed out further Axiom concentrations. They would then carry their momentum into the null and use maneuvering thrusters to adjust their course. Logistically, it should take less than a week for the full travel through the null if they could maintain the momentum. Personally, he assumed it would take a week and a half if they're being reasonably cautious, which they were under orders to be. They were already gone, though. A no-contact priority with the only hint of their passing being the numerous members of the EFL nearby along the laneways with an ear open for an emergency broadcast. And the rest of the galaxy, Philip? Admiral Cistern asks, after a minute of simply staring out to where Lance 03 had gone. Wealth and prosperity along the galactic lanes that lead here to Centris, yet the further from the lanes the less wealth and order there is. They even have generic nicknames similar to our null repository of cruel space. The old spy says, and Admiral Cistern takes a final puff of his now depleted cigar. He flicks away the stub into a distant rubbish bin. His own slight training with Axiom caused the shot to soar with trivial ease. I believe I've heard them used in passing. Prosperous space, distant space, frontier space, and wild space in the order of ease of access. Correct, sir. Furthermore, there are unique problems within each aspect. Within Centris and prosperous space conspiracy is the name of the day. Thankfully here in the beating heart of corruption, the conspiracies are so thick upon the ground, they are unable to actually act. Distant space has an extremely weak police presence and rely upon a system of high-paying bounties to clamp down on the worst of lawbreakers. The gentlemen you have posted upon the chainbreaker have been taking ruthless advantage of such. I had noticed the unusual amount of bounties in those areas. The frontier seems almost like America's Old West. Self-governance and self-reliance are the order of the day, sir. I've spoken to a few of their representatives, and the way they're treated is either poorly or not at all. They are ignored. I had noticed. Ambassador Nikti Tal speaks with me on the regular, always seemingly shocked that I'm willing to see her. Ambassador Cistern remarks calmly, Bruel is technically a frontier world. Sir Philip remarks before cracking a smile. However, I would also place the repeated visits on the fact that the young lady is clearly growing increasingly enamored with you, sir. Could we please not? I have yet to fully come to grips with my ex-wife's actions, let alone prepared myself for further madness. Sir, the way of a woman is not the way of madness, Sir Philip says with his smile reined in but still present on his stoic face somehow. Let us agree to disagree, he says, taking a deep breath and rumbles into his throat. He's developed a bit of phlegm off the last cigar. He'll have to watch his smoking. Speaking of disagreement, sir, it appears our team for smoking out conspiracy have had a very productive trip. Mr. Amadi Atagoke is now married to no less than 15 of the 4 armed rabbit women who have declared themselves rabbies. How and why a species of alien that have never so much as heard of humanity can be priests of the Jewish faith is beyond me, but there we are. Sir Philip remarks, and Admiral Cistern smirks. Language quirks. There are only so many sounds and therefore so many combinations, let alone 2-syllable words. It's one of the least confusing parts of all this. What about the other 2 team members? Engineer Pike and Trooper Jackson? Engineer Pike is in the process of being seduced by a praying mantis woman known as a Snikt, and a Hydra-based woman known as a Lidris. Their names are Misty and Shireen, respectively. His personal disgust at all things sexual is slowly losing in front of a combination of pampering affection and increasing lust. I doubt it will break his unrelenting pessimism, but one can always hope. Admiral Cistern considers as he stands at ease back into a comfortable place as he receives the report. Indeed, sir. As to our last touch of bait, he has found himself in bed with a pair of Metak sisters by the name of Nita and Nika. There is a high possibility of pregnancy. I see. I am unfamiliar with the Metak. What are they? They are categorized as multiple mammalian omnivores, 1 to 100 number 15. At a first glance, they are short blue-skinned women. However, they have tiny, shape-shifting wings that are the result of axiom-endowed evolution. They are skilled in flight and appear to have evolved from some form of bat. They are often born in groups of 2 to 5, and such siblings often follow one another in all walks of life. They are known for their mobility and propensity for running messages, and their natural speed and agility serves those in military functions well. And the ones with Trooper Jackson? Admiral Cistern asks. Twixt the two, there is a single functioning brain held exclusively by Nika. Nita is excitable, dim, and reckless. Nika is stubborn, somewhat delusional and condescending to anyone she believes less intelligent than herself. She also has a very high opinion of her own intelligence and flagrantly disbelieves in the existence of humans, Sir Philip says, and Admiral Cistern opens his mouth to say something about that, then pauses and closes it as he considers things. How would you profile the two hanging around Engineer Pike? Misty is a desperate middle-aged woman who's very much on the hunt for her man and decided that Engineer Pike is her soon-to-be husband, personal decision or decency be damned, and has taken much of her seduction advice from pornography. Shireen, on the other hand, is a young woman boiling in her hormones, and while just as desperate, is hopelessly naive. She would be doing better if she didn't misinterpret every second word as some kind of sexual innuendo and finding herself distracted. Effectively a pervert that's doing what she can to hide things. Sir Philip explains, and Admiral Cistern almost smirks. Well, what's the betting pool say about those two? Current odds favor Misty by a factor of 5 to 2 due to her sheer persistence. Not that the intelligence division has a betting pool based on the sex life of the other soldiers. Admiral Cistern notes in an amused tone. Of course not, sir. Sir Philip agrees with a quickly hidden smile. Our last trooper? The small warren of Rabbi's women are effectively extended family. They're also speaking about bringing more unmarried cousins and sisters in. There are 3 to 2 odds that by the end of the week he will be as massively married as Mr. Herbert Jameson. From what I understood, he did ask for it. He did indeed, sir. It's a very odd galaxy where gossiping about my trooper's love lives counts as a legitimate status report. He laments somewhat. To be fair, sir, they have found nearly 10 separate conspiracies despite being occupied, Sir Philip says with a bit of a smile. My apprentices in intelligence have had quite the time trying to understand how the nickname Reggie is a form of countersign for a hired assassin. By the end of the month, sheer experience will leave me with nothing to teach them. And then back to retirement, I take it? Indeed, sir. By the end of the year, my replacement will be fully trained, and I will be returning home.